Welcome to the Louie Herron Podcast, where I'm going deep into business, sales, leadership, and life. And I mean life, from the boardroom to the bedroom, from business acquisitions to personal addictions, from being saved yet still feeling like a slave, from manning up to mousing out, dealing with divinity to reality. This podcast is dedicated to growth, learning, inspiration, and healing. Jump in, hang on, and hang out. You'll never know which topic I'll tackle next. But one thing's for certain, I'm here to share my experiences, strengths, failures, and hope, all to help us live life at the highest level we can. What's going on, guys? It's Louie Herron Podcast. It's another week, man. It's another week. Time to course correct and see what we did well last week, see how we can add to maybe this coming week, how we can expand and get better, right? That's what we keep talking about on this podcast, is really trying to help men get better and overcome obstacles, roadblocks, to help our body, our being, our balance, our business. Those are the four areas I always like to kind of refer to. And today we've got something, I want to talk to you about the frame. I've mentioned this, but I don't think I've gone into depth of what it actually means. I hope you enjoyed last week's podcast. We talked about the 5 pillars of business. If you're going to build a business and you're going to ratchet that thing up and you're going to take it from 0 to 60 in 45, 60 days or less, what would you do? If you didn't catch that episode, go back and check it out. Those that own your own business, I think it'll tune you up and let you think, maybe question what you're currently doing, or maybe help you in some capacity. But also those that are looking to build a business, what a great way to really pick up some tips and some strategies, tactics to help you in your business as you're trying to develop it and grow it. Take heed from those that have gone before you. I listen to those that have gone before me, and maybe I've gone before some of you that are listening. And to that point, to those that are listening to the podcast, I want to tell you, thank you so much. Those that have shared episodes, those that take the time to give this to others, it means a ton to me. I think in the end, for me, self-actualization is the key to life. And for me, that's actually doing what you're called to do, doing the things that mean most to you. Like, I think there's more to life than recreate, procreate, do a few deals and die. I think we've got more to us. And I think we were put on this planet to do more than just make money, be more than just be a dad or to be a husband. I think those components are all important. You got to make money, right? You got to survive. You want to thrive, right? It's hard to thrive if you're broke. And I know a lot of people say money doesn't make you happy. I get it. I've been broke. I've tried both ways. I'd rather have a little money. Just telling you, I'd rather have a little bit of money. But if you think money's going to be the key to eliminate all the deep-rooted, seated issues that lie in the core of a man, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. You can have all the money in the world. You got a lot of people, a lot of infamous people, a lot of great entertainers, actors, people we look up to that do shocking things to themselves, like called suicide, and have tons of money. So we know that's not the key. But I do think money's important. I think making money, saving money, and learning how to multiply that money is critical to our development, critical to our legacy, critical to our families. And I think as a man, that's a responsibility we have, is to provide, to protect, to preserve, to be responsible, to have passion, to have prosperity, to have abundance, to be the king, right? And if the king doesn't rise, the kingdom dies. It's very important to realize that. You are the king. And if you don't rise, your kingdom will die. And I want to talk to you today in regards to the frame. A couple episodes back, I mentioned the frame, or your frame. And I wanted to take a step forward and go a little bit deeper into understanding how important it is and what that actually means. Let me begin by just starting off defining once again, what in the world is this frame? What does it mean? Well, it's just a metaphor, and it's something that I just kind of created in my mind that helps me understand what I need to do to keep things between the lines, between the frame. And I think if you look at the Webster's dictionary, a frame is a rigid structure that encloses something such as a door or a window, right? So we can visually, see that. We know what a frame is, right? A frame that holds a picture, right? Sometimes we get so stuck in the frame we can't even see the picture sometimes, right? But when you're talking about your frame, we're talking about the structure. We're talking about if you look at the definition of even breaking down what does a structure mean, a structure is a construct or an arrange according to a plan or give a pattern or put organization to. That's what structure is, right? So when I talk about a frame, we're thinking about the structure of the frame, right? We're enclosing something, but at the same time, think of the word structure. You're constructing or arranging according to a plan, giving a pattern or put to certain organization, right? We're going to put things in a certain order. Check this out. Follow me, track with me here for a minute. If we're gonna live our lives according to a frame, we're going to enclose in our core values and principles, and then we're going to structure it in a way where we arrange according to a plan. We're going to give a pattern or put some organization together. That's what I want to break down for you. This is what I feel like from a man's perspective. A man's frame is critical to success, his winning, and his growing. Right? If we're going to expand, expansion. That's what we want to do. Expansion is not perfection. If you're like me, I strive so hard from some of the deep rooted issues I have as a kid, right? Being told I was a piece of shit, or I wouldn't amount to much, or I wouldn't be much, or I would never play college football, or I wasn't good enough. I have this inside of my DNA that I continue to work on, that it's a performance-based personality, which I know is a detriment. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, well, hold on. Remember what I said before, a strength overused becomes a weakness. So it's very important to me that I understand that and isolate that. It's important to me that I relay that to you. Yes, I think there's been some benefits to that kind of mindset that I've had, but this whole concept of not being perfect, right? We want to expand. Expansion is not perfection. So I want to break that down and break this down, and I want to relay it back to business, leadership, sales, right? And life's lessons, right? That's the whole concept of the podcast, is really talking about how does this affect us as a man in our business, in leadership, leadership to yourself, leadership to your family, leadership to your spouse, leadership in any capacity. And it's important for me to relay to myself and convey to you that your body being balanced and your business is important factors of our life as men to be productive and be successful. So I want to break down. We talked about the structure, but part of that would be to arrange according to a plan. So let's stop right there and talk about the plan. So the plan as it relates to your frame. My question is, think about this. A plan is a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something for oneself. Now, if you're like me, this can become overwhelming because I think of a plan in my life, and I look at my life in so many different areas, right? Spiritually, physically, right? My health, my wellness, my physically how I feel and look, exercise wise. I look at my relationships. I look at my business, my bank account. Those things are important. So when you talk about having a plan, and we're talking about having a frame, now, a frame is going to enclose this plan, this structure, right? I want to put this structure, which starts with a plan, together. But the first thing is I got to identify, what is the plan? Think about that for a minute. Most of us are so busy. We're running so hard. We're keeping up with so much, whether it's the kids, it's the family, it's the spouse, it's work, it's results, it's paying bills, it's reinvesting money, it's a bad business deal. We don't even stop to reassess, to create that plan. It's important. We got to know what the plan is, right? Again, the indecisiveness, the lack of clarity will create massive issues for all of us. Again, not having a plan means we're indecisive. We don't have clarity, right? No plan is no frame. No frame is no structure. There's no enclosing of your core values or where your life is heading. This is the part that's critical to understand. But having a plan, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have your frame. It's just the first part of the awareness of your purpose, vision, and direction, right? The frame is the enclosing. In that enclosing, remember, we're talking about having the plan, the pattern, in an organized fashion. All right. That's the structure of this frame that we're talking about. So this is just kind of the first piece, is having the plan. It's giving you awareness, purpose, vision, direction. Think of the power of those words. Are you aware of your current reality? What is the reality? Not fiction, not bullshit. What's the reality of your situation? You broke or you broke? You got money, you got money. Is your relationships good, or does it suck right now? Are you on the brink of divorce, or are you thriving? Do you have a relationship with your children, or is it non-existent? You look at the awareness. What's the purpose? How powerful is having purpose, vision, knowing clearly where you're going? I talked last week on the 5 pillars of business. And so many times, if you're like me, you put me in certain sections of my life, and brother, I will freaking bite your face off to win. Clear clarity with vision. I know exactly what I'm doing, when I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and what it looks like. But you transfer that to another facet of my life. Let's just call it the physical side, physical well-being, my health, what I consume, what I eat, how often I exercise. Man, that's a challenge. It's not as clear, right? But it's important for me to have that clarity because in the end, it's going to give me the direction. So again, the plan is to arrange in advance. To put a plan together, you are arranging in advance your desires, your wants, your goals. Remember, competence is the mother of confidence. To be confident in your plan, to be confident in your frame, you got to have some competence, which means you got to have some awareness and some idea of which direction you're going. I think I want you to recall back to one of the episodes we did when I was talking about feeling stuck, right? Because some of you, if you've been in a situation like me and you're hearing my voice, you're going, man, shit, I can't even come up with a plan right now. Like I have so much going on right now. So I wanted to remind you, if you feel stuck, right, and you want to get unstuck, or like we referred to before, is unfuck yourself, because that's where you're at, is you're really stuck. It's more likely that you're still focused on three things. For you not to be able to come up with a concrete plan, to be able to firm your frame, to get you where you need to be, you're probably focused on these three things. The first thing is you're focused on things you can't control. You're focused on things that are out of your control. In other words, your bandwidth, your thinking process is tied up with things that are out of your control that have to deal with another person, place, or thing that you can't control. The second thing is you're probably focusing too much on what you don't have. You can't put a plan together of your wants, dreams, and desires if you're focused on your lack of resources, career, or anything that you don't currently have. And again, if you're stuck and you can't create a plan, you're either focusing on too much of what you can't control, or you're focusing too much on what you don't have. Or the last thing is you're probably focused a little bit too much on the past or maybe even the future. Maybe you've got something that's happened that keeps surfacing. You keep bringing the past to the present moment. Man, it's over. It's done. The clock is done. It went zero. It's done. It's yesterday. I mean, yesterday ended at midnight. I mean, it's over. It's done. For us to resurface and regurgitate something that is not benefiting us, other than the fact that possibly learn something from it, let's move on from it. Those things will keep you from making a plan, right? So if you need to put the plan together, here's a couple of things that I think will help you out. Right. I want you to think about your wants and your desires, not the roadblocks. Okay. I want you to pay close attention. Stay focused on what you want. And the problem is sometimes when you put down what you want, your mind starts to tell you that it can't happen. Right. It's not your responsibility to, when you're talking about making a plan, you make a plan on what your wants are, and you document your wants and you go for it. You put your desires are they're in your spirit for a reason, right? So I want you to think about that. You got to write this thing down and commit plan to memory. I remember when I was first buying a car dealership or wanted to buy a car dealership. This is going back when I was like 20 years old. I had a little note card. I literally would write down, that whole note card was filled, slap fill with my wants, desires, and look, stuff on there about I would be a general manager by the time I was 28. I'd be a car dealer by the time I was 32. And I'm 20 years old, by the way. And I'm writing all this stuff. And what I would do is I committed that card to memory. It was a plan. Does that work for everybody? I don't know. I would tell you it would, right? It worked for me. But what I'm sharing with you is I had a plan. The plan was spirit led. It was in my stomach, and I knew that it was attainable. But I knew that I had to create the plan, and I didn't realize at the time that I was creating that frame for myself. Right? I had that structure, right, that gave me the plan, the patterns, and I was putting some things in an organized fashion. Remember, your direction determines your destination. The direction you're going determines your destination. So I can tell you right now, living in Jacksonville, Florida, that I'm heading to Miami. My destination is Miami, Florida. I jump on 95, I head north. It don't matter how much I want to go to Miami. It doesn't matter how many beach balls and towels I packed and sunscreen. The bottom line is I'm not heading in the right direction if I'm heading north on 95 from Jacksonville. I'm heading to Jersey. Period. It doesn't matter. My direction, your direction, our direction determines the destination. What direction are you going? Your destination may be on the surface with your plan, you want X, but you're heading in an opposite direction. All right. I think, and for me personally, I think honestly, all plans are God given. They're spirit led. I think you thank God in advance. I think you make your plan, you work your plan. So I think the first part of your frame is you got to realize you got to have a plan. The second part of that is we talked about the patterns, the habits within your frame, right? What are your values, your core, your character? These are the things. Again, if you're creating a frame for yourself, my ex-wife would tell me all the time, I would tell her, "You're always firming my frame," right? I would tell her that. "Man, you're always firming my frame." I don't even know if she knew to the extent of that statement, but intuitively she knew, right? She knew my frame. And what I mean by that is she knew my values, she knew who I was as a person, she knew my potential, she knew my abilities, my skills, she knew what I could do and could create. And whenever I was out of frame, he would call me out on it. She would flat call me out on it. Now, you may not have your wife do that, then wives are good at doing that, but maybe you got your boss calling you out because he knows your values. He knows what you bring to the table. He knows your talent. He knows if you're being late. He may be calling you out. That's somebody firming your frame. And I'm encourage you to embrace when someone's calling you out on your frame, when they're firming your frame. Embrace it. Don't fight it. Right. So I want to talk about some of these patterns, right? Let's talk about values, right? Values being love, honesty, success, family, helping others, encouraging, work ethic, goals, passion, energy, spirituality. These are values. What values do you hold for yourself? This is your frame, right? You make a plan, but again, your patterns and your values, your character, all of us. And I'm not speaking to you right now as my character is flawless because I promise you it's not. I have to firm my frame all the time. That's part of being a human being. Are you holding your frame in these areas? Remember, a rigid structure that encloses something. This is what we don't. This is what we don't let anything penetrate or intrude on. When I was I've used this example before because I think it's very powerful when in regards to alcohol. There was moments where I would feel like I needed to have a drink, and if I did not have my frame and say, "No, that's not within the structure that has been created that encloses my core values, that contributes to me getting to where I wanna go," right? My direction will determine my destination. I'm not doing it. I'm not freaking doing it. I'm not doing it, and I didn't do it. Took practice, but, when you have a frame, then you start to understand that when this frame gets firm, you start to uphold your values and the things that you stand for, right? So I ask you, what do you value? Does your life reflect what you say you value? Or do you have other patterns? Right? Is there dishonesty in your core? Is there procrastination? Is there laziness? Are you on the side of negativity? Do you have a tendency to not set goals? Do you not have a connection with God or spirituality or higher power or something greater than yourself? Again, I'm naming a few. We could go on and on between values and no values. And again, there's polarity to every value. There's an opposite, right? So again, the habits create these patterns. And when we're talking about our patterns and our core values, again, you can change a lot of this stuff, right? So if you ask yourself the question, habits to create your patterns, I don't know, something as simple as what time do you wake up every day? Do you go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week? Do you meditate? Do you pray? Do you journal? Do you process certain things as they come up at work? An uncomfortable situation? Do you take time to put pen to paper? Do you ink it, not think it? Do you write things down? Do you express things? Do you have a coach? Somebody you rely on, somebody you go to, somebody that you bounce things off of, that you respect enough to give you feedback that you actually will listen, right? Sometimes I have people that I look up to that I'll go to. I can't tell you how many times I bounce something off them. They give me their advice. I don't do it. Right? That's when my frame is out of line, when my core knows that I'm getting the coaching needed or I'm getting some therapeutic conversation, but I'm still doing what I wanna do, and I'm doing what I wanna do based on a frame that's broken. It's out of whack. But when the frame is firm, when it's a rigid structure and it's enclosed with the core values that I'm doing my best to live, in my body being balanced in business, I'm going to get the most and I'm going to index the most and maximize my life's potential by doing that. So again, you got to have, again, do you have a coach? Or think about some patterns of sedation, medication, maybe to de-stress or to relax, right? Or just because, all of us have vices. All of us have things that we do that maybe we shouldn't do, that don't benefit us, don't serve us in some kind of way. But that's between you and you. That's not for me to tell you, right? I'm sharing with you some of my pitfalls, some of the things that hung me up, some of the things that cracked my frame. So hopefully you can learn the power of having a frame. When we're talking about the frame, and we went and we really looked at the very beginning, we talked about the frame as a rigid structure. We looked at structure. A structure was arranging of a plan, giving patterns. We talked about the power of having a plan. We talked about patterns, right? But I want to talk about or put organization to your frame, right? Having the organized fashion of how you put something together. I mean, look, I would rather organization is making arrangements or preparations for an event. So if you think about it, when you're organizing something, you're just making arrangements or preparing for a future event or some kind of event that's coming up. So I'll give you an example. I would rather be prepared without an opportunity than have an opportunity come up and not be prepared. This is part of having your frame together. Are you prepared or when something comes up that's in accordance with your plan? You put a plan together, boom, opportunity arises. Are you prepared? Has your frame, your values, have you put in the work? Have you done the things you need to be in position to do so? I'll give you an example. When I was in Atlanta, and this is before I bought a car dealership, I went and enrolled myself to NADA Dealer Academy. At the time, I was only a general sales manager. I wasn't even a general manager yet, and I paid for this school $15,000 to go to this school for a year. It was 1 week every other month. I paid for it, plus the lodging, plus the transportation to get there, the flights and all that kind of thing, plus the food. It's probably $25,000 total. I invested in myself to be a dealer. Now think about it for a second. It was part of my plan, guys. On my card, it was part of my plan to be a dealer. I'm a GSM. I'm a general sales manager. I'm not even a general manager yet, and I paid to go take a dealer academy course on class on how to become a dealer. That's an example of being prepared and having an opportunity come up and ready to roll versus have an opportunity come up and not be prepared. But to hold your frame, for me, to hold your frame, you must prepare and make the arrangements, especially for the distractions, the outside circumstances, and the storms that are going to keep you from holding that frame or staying consistent with your frame. When you're putting together your plan, you're analyzing your patterns, and then you're organizing everything, you're making preparation because I'm going to tell you, once you put your frame in place and you say, this is it, this is what I'm going to do, I'm no longer going to do this, this is no longer serving me, I'm now going to show up this way, you're going to have things that come your way by way of a storm that if you don't have everything arranged and ready to go, this is the stuff that could crack the frame. And I've lived in that. I've had it where my frame was cracked, where I wasn't at the integrity of the frame was not well put together. So this may take you a while to surface and get yourself to that point, but it's important that you make the arrangements for the distractions, the outside circumstances, the things that could come up, the things that could come out around. Again, I go back. I tell you, like, before my ex would tell me, she would say, I would tell her that she's firming my frame, and again, I don't know the extent if she understood that. But another thing, when she would be frustrated with me, she'd look at me and she'd be like, "Hey, man, what do champions do? What do champions do?" And I'd look at her like, "What are you telling me? Like, I've bought dealerships. I've done this. I've done that." It's just that ego, man. It's that ego, right? Letting some of that go, looking and say, okay, what is a champion? What was she saying to me? She's saying, man, a champion is a person who has defeated or surpassed all rivals in competition. What does that have to do with me? What does that have to do with her telling me? What does a champion do? Well, when I break it down in my mind, if it's a person who's defeated or surpassed all rivals in competition, you are your greatest freaking rival. I am my greatest rival. I am the enemy. The enemy is the inner me. I am the greatest rival. In other words, to be a champion, I got to overcome myself. right? I've got to overcome myself. I am the greatest terrorist that I have to beat. I mean, a champion will fight and argue for cause on behalf of myself. And when I think of fight, think about the work and the effort it takes. These guys that get into, the UFC, they get into the cage, man, and they get battling. They do their thing. They're fighting, man. These guys they work, put the plan together. They put their frame together. They put their whole camp together. They put the food together. They put the gym time together. They make the plan. They put the patterns. They organized it in such a fashion of when they got up, when they worked out, when they did what they did, all in hopes of getting into that to be a champion. Fight. Now fight. So as men, that's what I'm suggesting. We all just got to keep fighting. It's so easy to lay down. It's so easy to say, you know what, hell with this. I'm done. I am freaking done. I'm done. It's so easy to say that. It's so easy. It's so hard to say, no, I'm not done, man. I'm not done. A champion doesn't do that. A champion doesn't do that. A champion continues to put in the work. A champion